Joining me now is the reporter who wrote that story, Teddy Schleifer, and back with us is Michael Hardaway. Teddy, I found this fascinating. Millions and millions of dollars being put, as you put it, thrown at this. What exactly is the Democrats' plan? What's their strategy here?
So there's a couple of projects here. They're all somewhat competitive, but I think the gist here is a belief that Democratic donors and investors need to basically jumpstart a rival program to what has happened on the right, where, I think the most canonical example here is Joe Rogan, but there's plenty of podcasters and YouTube hosts that I can name that most people have not heard of. And the belief is that President Trump marshaled the energy behind kind of right-leaning creators, and that Democrats need to kind of start their own creators or fund the existing creators a little bit better. So this is definitely a top-down approach to solving the problem. And I think that's what gives some Democrats and certainly some Republicans some skepticism here. But the belief is that, it's 2025, there's 3 years to go until the next presidential race, that basically this can be engineered if there's enough leadership from the contributor class.
So there was a lot of talk after the election, Teddy, about who would be the left's Joe Rogan. But yeah, Joe Rogan didn't appear out of nowhere. So who are Democrats eyeing to put their money behind? Can money, I guess the key question for me is, can it create influence, or is it personality and smarts?
Yeah, one interesting thing that came up in my reporting is a lot of these projects are actually for profit. The notion that this is just going to be Democratic donors kind of, doing charitable work to fund, your lowly influencer next door. The belief is that they need to create an ecosystem of for-profit companies that make it profitable and reward creators on the left to give them a chance of competing with someone like Rogan. So, these people might not be well known right now, or they might have a small audience right now. But the idea is that if there can be kind of investment in for-profit companies that offer services, from things as boring as like HR software for these creators to things like maybe serving as de facto talent agents for kind of small influencers. The idea is to create a surround sound wraparound services for kind of left-leaning creators to make them be more akin to Rogan.
Michael, is this another example of Democrats focusing too much on messengers and not the message, a cohesive message?
Never fight the last war. If there's any Democratic strategist who thinks what happened last time will be effective next time, they should leave this business and go sell shoes. I love the idea that we're reconsidering the way that we deploy capital and our message and the platforms, but let's not say that worked last time, so it's going to work the next time. We have to be forward-looking. I have to admit, by the way, I've been in some of these conversations, but Democrats have to be aggressive in terms of the way that we communicate and understand that podcasts are great and those long podcasts are great, but they have to be authentic. That's why Joe Rogan works, particularly for young men, which is it's an authentic conversation. I think Democrats have a propensity to be a little snowflake-ish. And so I don't know how that reconciles itself.
Well, so it's interesting. While I was reporting from the DNC last summer, I talked to one of the Harris campaign's top aides, Rob Flaherty, smart guy, hardworking guy, about their investment in digital. And here's what he told me. How much are you spending on digital?
Well, we're spending a significant amount. The campaign just made the largest investment in digital advertising in the history of campaign politics.
Literally ever.
Literally ever. And that is because we know that we need to reach voters wherever they are consuming information.
And then across the hall from where I did that interview was an area just for influencers. If you look at the results, it didn't work out so well for them, I think, to your point. But what do you do in 2025? Understanding, and we were talking about this earlier, the highest propensity voters, I don't think, and I think the facts bear me out, are people who are listening to a lot of Joe Rogans or young influencers, or could even define influencers, to be honest.
People don't want to be advertised to. So if we're saying we're going to connect with voters by spending $100 million on ads, that's not going to work. It's about a relationship. The reason Joe Rogan works is his audience has a relationship with him. They trust him. They enjoy what he provides to them. Democrats have to create that. It's not about the platform. It's not about advertising. It's about creating content that resonates with voters and builds a relationship with them.
All right, Teddy. I want to ask you about something else. And I don't know, we'll see how this all plays out in the long term. But Elon Musk, he's pulling back, as the AP puts it, after his last big investment was a flop, Wisconsin. I know you've covered him for a long time. What do you think the chances are? And he was, by the way, he was in the Oval just like 10 minutes ago. Granted, it was the president of South Africa. He was born in Pretoria. But what are the chances he's really pulling back from politics?
I'm somewhat skeptical. I'll say that. I think Elon Musk was active in Republican politics well before the 2024 election. He just did it secretly. And I think that's sort of maybe the case going forward. We reported in the Times yesterday that Musk has signaled to advisors that after kind of his pretty embarrassing flop in Wisconsin last April, that he believes that he seems to believe, I'll say, that he knows he can be a problem for the causes he supports. So maybe that means going forward, Musk is not going to be as public. In the past, he has supported dark money groups that don't disclose their donors. And certainly, Elon Musk, if he gave to one of those groups, would not need to do a town hall for a candidate he's supporting. He could just do it quietly. So, Musk is always very, very aware of kind of what he's messaging publicly. I could see a scenario where he's saying this in this on-record interview, but then kind of goes back to giving privately.